Yesterday sucked. Okay, so just so you know, if your drain and fill plugs aren't seized inside of your differential housing, that job probably takes like 15-20 minutes. In my opinion, it's easier than an oil change. But you guys saw the kind of damage that can ensue, you know, when you're trying to remove a seized bolt. But anyway, we got it done, and it's got fresh fluid in there, so let's move on to the transmission drain and fill. This truck has 270,000 miles on it, and I don't know if the fluid has ever been changed or when it was changed last. Some people will say if it's been this long, you probably should not change your fluid, and the reason for that is your transmission kind of gets used to the debris in there, and if you remove it and you put fresh fluid in there, then your transmission can start to slip or it could completely fail. So I'm not going to do a full flush. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, and I'm going to drain and fill. And I think it's going to be about 4 quarts, but I got that bucket I showed you guys before, so we're just going to drain it. And if this plug is stuck, I'm just going to leave it because I certainly don't want to damage my transmission pan. So let's get under there and see if we can get this thing off. We're going to go for a little drive before I do the transmission fluid, and we're going to do that for 2 reasons. Number one is we want to get the transmission fluid up to operating temperature. It'll be a little easier to drain out. The other reason is I did the differential fluid last night and I haven't driven the car yet. So for me, if I'm going to do the oil, the transmission fluid, the transfer case fluid, the rear differential fluid, and then something starts to act different, something starts to feel weird, it's going to be kind of hard for me to pinpoint what it is because I just did 4 things before I drove the car. So I'm going to drive it after each one of the maintenance items just to make sure that everything seems normal, so that if I do find some issues, then I'll be able to narrow it down to what it was because it'll be the last thing I did. I'm just now realizing that I haven't really taken you guys on any drives. I've put about 1,400 miles on the truck since I bought it. A good portion of that was driving to Hidden Falls outside of Austin to do some trails to test out the Dobinson suspension. But I haven't really done a whole lot of driving with you guys, so maybe I should do that in an upcoming video. Maybe I'll do like a full walk around update or something. We'll see. All right, I'm about to get on the highway here in a second. ECT power is on. Not feeling any vibration. I'm accelerating at a pretty decent rate. What are we at? 3,000? No vibration. 3,500. Let's see if we can get to 4,000. Yeah, man, this thing is smooth. This thing is smooth. So your transmission drain pan bolt is 13 millimeter, and I think it's worth mentioning, if you drive to warm up your transmission fluid, right now this is about 179 degrees. You don't want to burn yourself, so I got a glove on. And I've also got this magnet. So as I loosen that, I'm going to quickly pull my hand away so that I can catch it. Hopefully it doesn't drop in there. Obviously you want to prevent really hot fluids from being on my hands. I got a little cardboard box and my bucket that measures in quarts. I'm really hoping only 4 quarts comes out because that's all I got. So if more than that comes out, I'm gonna have to take a trip to the dealer to pick up some more fluid. But shouldn't be too bad. Just gonna extend my little magnet, put it right here. Ooh, yeah, buddy, that is stinking hot, dude. By the way, I've never done this before, this little catch the bolt thing before, so I'm not sure it's gonna work, but I guess we'll find out together. Ow, I kind of smashed my head. I didn't think it was that close to coming off. So it doesn't look like the transmission fluid drain plug is magnetic. I thought it was, so I was gonna check it for metal shavings, but maybe this isn't the original one, but I think it is. But it's not magnetic. I just checked by tapping it to the side of this, and I'm not getting anything. So it's definitely not magnetic, and that's why there's no shavings on there. So I don't really have a good indicator if there's any debris in the transmission fluid, but there's no gear chunks or metal shavings, so I don't know. I think that's pretty much all we're gonna get out, so I'm just gonna kind of wipe this down a little bit. Got my new crush washer on there. And then I actually was able to get a torque wrench from Harbor Freight. And then the torque spec for this is 27 foot-pounds. Where's my wrench? Well, where's 27 foot-pounds at? Come on now. Yo. I got this thing set. 27 foot-pounds, okay. I guess that crush washer just takes a long time to crush. Any second now. Well, I think we have a problem. We have a problem. We have a serious problem, dude. Sometimes you can do everything right, and it still goes wrong, because I got the torque specs, I got a torque wrench, I got a crush washer from the dealership, I unscrewed it, let it drain, put it back in, used the torque wrench, and now either the bolt or the pan is stripped. So it won't tighten and it won't loosen. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to top it off with the OEM automatic transmission fluid. I'm going to check to see if it leaks. I'm going to start it up, check to see if it leaks. I don't want to chance it. It won't tighten all the way. It just keeps spinning, so either the pan is stripped or the bolt is stripped. And the last thing I want to do is be going on a 6-hour trip and I got no fluid in my transmission and truck's ruined. Alright guys, I just got back to the house, did a little drive around the neighborhood. Transmission temperature is sitting at 163 right now. I just did a little inspection on the underside to make sure that I didn't have any transmission fluid dripping out of that bolt, and it seems okay right now, but I'm not calling it good because the bolt won't tighten. To me, that's a problem. It might not be dripping right now, that doesn't mean it won't in the future, and I'd rather have peace of mind instead of checking it constantly. So I'm gonna leave it for now because it's holding fluid. I gotta figure out how to get that bolt out, because I don't know if the bolt is stripped or if the pan is stripped, but one of those two is stripped because it's not going in any further and it's not coming out. I really hope it's the bolt because I don't want to go through and do the whole oil pan or the whole transmission pan. But anyway, let's check the fluid level and see how we're looking. I'm gonna try to show you this on my old dipstick. Right here between these notches, you can kind of tell very ever so slightly it says hot, and then right here between these two little ones it says cold. So when you're measuring it, if it's not warmed up, it should be here between these, and if it is warmed up, then it should be between those two right there. And then hopefully you guys can see, but I am right at the top of hot. Right at the top there. I had to do it a few times because I just put the fluid in there through the dipstick, and so it's kind of all over the stick, so I had to clean it off and put it in there a couple times, but you can see it is right there at the top of hot. Perfect. We're on day 3. I'm in the 5th gen because the 3rd gen is incapacitated right now. I've been trying to do this maintenance video, and you know, in a perfect world this would have taken hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to do oil, transmission fluid, drain and fill, transfer case fluid, and rear differential fluid, and greasing the drive shaft. 2 hours, probably. Well, I'm on day 3, like I said, and right now I'm headed to Harbor Freight because I need yet another tool. I'm dripping transmission fluid, can't drive the 3rd gen. So I'm going to get a pry bar to see if I can get some leverage behind the bolt while I try to back it out. And if not, I have no idea what to do. Hopefully, it's the bolt that's stripped and not the drain pan, because if the pan is stripped, then I'm gonna have to tap and die, and then if that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to replace the whole pan. So one small thing can turn into a big thing real quick. It's been about an hour and a half. I got these pry bars from Harbor Freight. Didn't do the trick. There just wasn't enough space around the drain plug because it's got like a little bit of a lip around where the bolt is actually at. So I ended up using some vice grips, and I just clamped on to the top like this, and I just pulled down as I twisted. And I noticed that there was a lot of play in the bolt. It was moving around because the threads were gone, supposedly. So I just kind of pulled it out at an angle. Now, ideally, you can get it out without pulling it at an angle, because you risk messing up the actual threads on the drain pan. But I couldn't think of any other way to get it out, so I pulled it out at an angle. It started to catch the threads, and it came out. So this is the bolt. As you can see, the threads are totally gone, and the edges, the flanged edge there is all beat up. So I'm gonna say this was largely a operator error. I'm pretty sure that I had the torque wrench set to 37 foot-pounds, and I was just trusting the torque wrench. So I felt resistance, but I was waiting for it to click, and it didn't click. I kept going, and this is what I did. So, amateur tip: check your torque wrench before you go torquing stuff down, because I could have saved myself a lot of heartache. Now what I did was I got a new bolt and I started to put it in just to see how the threads on the drain pan were, and they were shot. So I got this tap and die set. I've had it for a while now, and it was M10 by 1.5. I threaded it in there slowly, as straight as possible, in and then out, and then in and then out, just to make sure that the threads were nice and clean. And then I put it back in there, the bolt. I put the new bolt in there, threaded it in nicely. I did it without the washer on it just to see if it would go all the way up. Took it out, did it again with the washer. So now what I'm gonna do, you might be able to see there's quite a bit of junk on the threads, like right here. Quite a bit of junk on there. So I'm gonna pour in a quart just to try to rinse out any other debris. And then I'm gonna put the drain pan plug back in, top it off, and hopefully it doesn't leak. All right guys, it's been about 3 weeks since the end of the last clip. I've been driving around a lot, kept checking the fluid levels for the transmission, kept checking the bolt on the underside to see if there was any residue. I didn't find any transmission fluid, but I did find a ton of gear oil coming from the transfer case. So more problems means more content. There's going to be another video coming up next week about replacing the front drive shaft oil seal coming out of the transfer case. But as far as the transmission is concerned, everything is a-okay. We went ahead and bought a new bolt from the dealership and a new crush washer, put it in there, and I just did it finger tight this time because truthfully it doesn't need to be that tight, and those threads could have been weakened by using them, by tapping it. So hopefully everything is good. And you know, after 3 weeks of pretty consistent driving with varying temperatures here in Texas, it's been as high as 95 degrees and as low as like 42 degrees over the past few weeks. So everything looks good. But pro tip, or amateur tip I guess, make sure you read the manual on your torque wrench if you buy a new one, because I ended up setting mine to 37 foot-pounds when it should have been 27 foot-pounds, and I just kept going, and you saw the bolt, I completely shredded it. So avoid those problems by just following the directions, and you should be good to go. So anyway guys, that's it for this one. Catch you in the next one.